The deep black space beyond Neptune was quiet, colder than anything a human could imagine. For years, the old listening station floated there, forgotten by most of Earth. It was a lonely machine, manned by only a handful of technicians who spent their days monitoring signals from the stars. Most of what they heard was nothing static, faint radio bursts from dying suns, or echoes from faraway planets. But tonight, something strange came through. It began as a faint hum. Technician Leanne Ju almost ignored it. She was half asleep at her desk, staring at the endless scrolling data. Then the hum turned into a sound that made her sit up straight. It was not just random noise, it was a voice. She leaned closer, adjusting the filters. The voice was shaky, broken by static, but it was speaking in a language no one on Earth had ever recorded before. The words trembled like they came from someone in pain or from someone who was already too late to be saved. Leanne felt a chill crawl down her spine as the translator software tried to piece it together. Slowly, painfully, the meaning formed on the screen. If you hear this, run. They can track the sound. We are already dead. The message looped. Again and again, and with it came coordinates numbers pointing to a star system no human ship had visited. Leanne called her supervisor, and soon the small station was alive with people running checks, replaying the signal, recording every second. The more they listened, the more wrong it felt. This was not a distress call asking for help. It was a warning to stay away. Back on Earth, the UN Space Agency received the recording. In the grand meeting hall, politicians and scientists argued over what to do. Many wanted to delete the signal, to pretend they never heard it. To track the sound, they said, then by listening, humanity might already have been noticed. Others said it was their duty to find out what happened. If another civilization was in danger, shouldn't humans help? Captain Mara Rios sat at the back of the meeting, silent. She was not part of the UN fleet anymore. She had left years ago to run her own ship, the Arcos, taking on deep space contracts for whoever could pay. She was used to danger. She had seen things in space that most people would never believe, and as she listened to that trembling alien voice, she felt something heavy settle in her chest. Whoever had sent that message had been desperate. Desperate enough to risk sending it, even if it would lead the danger right to them. By the end of the meeting, the UN decided to ignore the signal. Too risky. Too many unknowns. Officially, the coordinates would be locked away. Unofficially, Captain Rios had already made her choice. That night, she sent a single encrypted message to her crew. We leave at dawn, bring everything. Arcos was not a big ship, but it was fast and armed enough to survive trouble, at least the kind of trouble humans were used to. Her crew knew better than to question her when she had that look in her eyes. Pavel, the engineer, stocked up on extra fuel cells. Dr. Harlow loaded the medbay with supplies for species they hadn't even met yet. Juno, the pilot, plotted the course to the given coordinates. They all felt the same strange pull, like the voice in the message was speaking directly to them. 3 days later, Arcos slipped quietly out of Earth's docking ring. No official records showed their departure. No broadcasts announced their destination. Mara kept the ship's comms on low power, sending no signals into the dark. The first week passed without incident. The stars outside grew brighter as they left the solar system behind. But every night, Mara played the recording again. She told herself it was for study, for analysis, but in truth, she couldn't stop hearing the fear in that alien's voice. Each time she thought she caught new details in the background, a faint clicking, a low hum like breathing. She didn't tell the crew. Not yet. On the 12th day, Pavel picked up something strange. Captain, I think someone's out there. His hands moved quickly over the controls, bringing up a faint blip on the screen. Then another. Too massive. Objects were moving in the same direction as Arcos, far behind them but slowly gaining. They gave off no heat, no radio signals. At first glance, they looked like dead ships drifting in space, but they were matching Arcos' course perfectly. Juno tried to shake them off changing speed, altering course slightly, but each time the shapes adjusted their path to follow. No response came to hails, not even static. The only sound in the cockpit was the soft ping of the radar as the two shadows crept closer. That night, Mara could not sleep. She stood in the observation bay watching the stars, somewhere out there. Something had heard the same signal and it was coming for them. She remembered the aliens' words. They can track the sound. She began to wonder if she had made the worst mistake of her life. But turning back was not an option. It's not anymore. When Pavel came to her the next morning with a pale face, she knew something had changed. He had been running deeper scans on the two objects. "Captain," he said slowly, "I don't think they're ships at all. Or, if they are, they're not like anything we know. And I think they've been following that signal longer than we've been alive." Mara looked at the display. At the two cold, silent shapes in the dark. For the first time in years, she felt truly afraid. Yet beneath the fear, there was something else, a determination that no shadow could shake. Whatever lay at the end of those coordinates. See it with her own eyes. Even if it meant finding out why that alien voice had warned them to run. And somewhere, deep in the dark, the two silent hunters closed the distance. The shadows followed Arcos for 2 more days. They never closed in fast, but they never drifted away either. No matter what speed Juno chose, the two objects adjusted instantly, always keeping the same haunting distance. On the 3rd night, the crew woke to a sharp burst of static flooding the comms. It was so loud and sudden that even the sleeping quarters vibrated. Lights flickered across the control panels. For a second, everyone thought they'd been hailed, but no language came through, just the static. Then buried deep inside the noise came a single word: leave. It wasn't human. It wasn't even a voice as they knew it. It was like the word had been scraped together from 1,000 broken signals, stitched into something that barely sounded alive. Dr. Harlow went, pale, clutching her headset. That didn't come from either of us? Pavel ran a trace on the transmission. The result made him swear under his breath it hadn't come from the shadows either. It had come from everywhere around them, like the vacuum of space. Itself had spoken. Mara gave the order to mute all receivers, but it was already too late. The sound had reached them. Later, Pavel pulled her aside. "Captain," I was going through the static frame by frame. "It's not just noise. There are images hidden in it. You can't see them all at once. They flash for less than 1/10 of a second each but." Pulled up a sequence on the screen. Blurry frames flickered one after another. Alien ships, split apart by invisible force. Metallic corridors smeared with strange burns. Bodies floating in zero-G. Faces frozen in terror. Each image was tinted the same sickly green. The final frame showed a planet's surface, cracked and dark. No stars shone above it, just blackness. "This was sent to us on purpose," Pavel whispered. "It's a warning." Mara studied the frames in silence. If someone wanted them to turn back, they'd chosen the wrong ship. She gave Juno a new course direct to the coordinates, maximum thrust. If the shadows wanted to follow, they'd have to keep up. The acceleration made the stars smear into thin white lines across the viewing bay. For a while, nothing happened. Then the shadows changed. Instead of simply trailing behind, they drifted closer, as if curious. Pavel kept scanning. Them frustration growing. No energy signatures, no life signs. "It's like they're not even... They're there," Mara said. "And they don't want to be seen." By the 6th hour of the chase, one of the shadows broke formation. It drifted toward Arco's left flank. Not fast, but steady. Juno's knuckles whitened on the controls. "Captain, if it comes any closer, I can burn hard right." "No," Mara interrupted. "Hold course." Her eyes were fixed on the radar, watching the two objects slowly adjust their positions. The second shadow slid to the right, boxing them in. Then, without warning, both stopped dead. No motion, no pursuit, just two dark shapes hanging in space, letting Arcos sail past. The crew stared at the screens in disbelief. What the hell was that? Juno muttered. Mara didn't answer. She watched as the two shadows rotated in perfect unison and faced them. The image on the display was grainy, but clear enough to see, though they weren't just shapes they had formed now. Smooth black holes that drank in the light, no windows, no markings, no visible engines.
Oh.
They floated there, like silent judges, watching. For a long, tense minute, nothing happened. Then, as if obeying some silent command, the two ships soar, whatever they were, turned away and vanished into the black. Jumped to hyperspace, not cloaked just. Gone. The Arcos continued forward, but every member of the crew knew the truth. The shadows hadn't given up. They had simply decided to let the humans go a little further. Mara felt the weight in her chest grow heavier. Somewhere ahead lay the star system and the aliens' warning. Now she understood. The shadows weren't trying to stop them from reaching it. They were escorting them there. The Arcos dropped out of faster-than-light travel into a dead, lightless system. The moment the ship slowed, the crew felt a awful stillness, like the whole star system was holding its breath. The central sun was nothing more than a cold, red ember, casting a weak, bloody glow over the planet's Juno, adjusted the forward cameras. And the view made the whole crew fall silent. The third planet from the dead star was scarred beyond recognition. Enormous impact craters pitted its surface. Vast stretches of ground had been turned to black glass, reflecting the dim light like frozen lakes. No clouds, no oceans, just a lifeless shell that might have once been alive. Orbiting above the ruined planet was a single alien vessel. It was massive, larger than anything humans had ever built, its hull a patchwork of burns, cracks, and strange melted scars. No movement, no lights. No signs of power, but the sensors picked up something. A faint life sign deep inside the ship. Mara ordered Arcos to approach cautiously. The docking clamps rattled as they latched onto the alien vessel. When the airlock doors opened, the smell hit them first. Cold metal mixed with something burnt and stale. They stepped into a wide corridor lined with strange, spiraling patterns carved into the walls. The design was beautiful, but smeared in places with dark, dried stains. Pavel's helmet light swept across the floor, revealing tools scattered everywhere, as if dropped in a hurry. They found the first body in the next room. The alien was tall, with pale, bark-like skin and long fingers, but its skull. The skull had a hole bored into it, small and perfectly round, like something had drilled straight through bone. The face was twisted into a silent scream. There were more bodies deeper inside. Some were slumped over consoles, others floating in zero gravity. Every single one had the same perfect hole in its head. Then they found the survivor. He was lying against the wall of what might have been a command deck. His skin was dull and cracked, eyes half closed, breath shallow. When Mara knelt beside him, he opened his eyes just enough to focus on her. You heard the signal?" he rasped, his voice shaking. "Yes," Mara said quietly. "We came." "To help?" The alien shuddered, almost a laugh. "No, you came to die." Dr. Harlow tried to stabilize him, but he grabbed Mara's wrists with surprising strength. "It's not ships you should fear," he whispered. "It's what rides inside. It lives in the signal. It moves through thought." Lead, black fluid spilling from his mouth. Silence is the only wall. Before Mara could ask what he meant, his body went limp. Something small and smooth slid from his grip into Mara's palm, a crystal shard. As she turned it over, it caught the light and shimmered faintly, almost like there was movement inside. Then, as far away in the corridors of the alien ship, something made a noise. It was soft. It was distant. It was footsteps. But Mara's crew had already scanned the entire vessel. There wasn't supposed to be anyone else live on board. The sound echoed faintly through the alien corridors, soft, measured steps that didn't match the weight or gait of any human. They weren't hurried, but deliberate, like something was taking its time. The Arco's crew froze, listening. Every few seconds, the footsteps paused, as if whatever was making them was stopping to listen to. Mara motioned for everyone to switch to silent comms. No one spoke out loud. Svel's scanner showed nothing. No heat signatures. No life readings, just the steady hum of Arco's systems in the distance. And yet the sound was moving, Closer. Dr. Harlow pointed. Toward a darkened hallway. It's coming from there. The crew backed toward the airlock, weapons ready. The footsteps stopped. For a moment, there was only the sound of their own breathing inside their helmets. Then, without warning, the corridor lights flickered. On not bright, just enough to reveal a shadow at the far end. It wasn't shaped like any alien they'd seen before. Too thin, too tall, its outline sharp in places where it should have been smooth, as if the body was only half-formed. It stood perfectly still. Then it vanished. The lights cut out again. Pavel swore under his breath. It's playing with us. They made it back to Arcos without seeing it again, but the moment the airlock sealed, the ship's comm system crackled to life. A whisper filled the cockpit Mara's voice. Only she wasn't speaking. If you hear this, run Juno's hands. Flew over the controls to shut it down, but the words kept looping, her own voice speaking over and over. The recording wasn't coming from any external signal. It was being generated from inside Arcos systems. Pavel tore into the ship's black box logs, searching for a trace of when the message had been recorded. This doesn't make sense, he said, his voice shaking. It's dated for tomorrow. It shouldn't even exist yet. The alien crystal pulsed faintly in Mara's pocket, like a heartbeat. Against her better judgment, she brought it to the lab. When Dr. Harlow connected it to the analysis scanner, every monitor on the ship flickered, showing fragments of alien symbols, distorted images, bursts of that same sickly green light they'd seen in the static earlier. Then came the voice knot. The aliens, but something older, colder. It spoke in the human tongue now. I am listening. Every speaker on the ship carried the sound. Even the ones that weren't powered. Pavel slammed his hand on the shutdown switch. But the voice kept talking, the words sliding into something half-garbled, half-sung, like static turned into music. Crew members reported hearing faint whispers even after the systems went dark, whispers that repeated their own private thoughts back to them. Dr. Harlow's voice trembled. It's inside. Not just the ship. It's in us. Mara remembered. The dying alien's word silence is the only wall. But Arcos was a listening ship, its sensors always hungry for signals. Out here in the endless dark, they had no way to hide. And in the quiet between heartbeats, Mara realized something. The thing on the alien vessel hadn't followed them. It had never needed to. It was already here. The Arcos had been running silent for 12 hours. Every transmitter shut down, every sensor set to passive. No one spoke unless it was absolutely necessary. The crew moved through the ship like ghosts, afraid of the sound of their own voices. Even the hum of the engines felt too loud, but silence wasn't enough. It started with a light blink on the comm console, just a tiny green dot, meaning an outgoing packet had been sent. Juno froze when she saw it. Captain, we're transmitting. That's impossible, Pavel snapped. Everything's locked. Mara was already on her way to the console. The packet was small, encrypted, and marked as a status report. To Earth Command. But no one had written it. No one had even authorized the channel. Pavel cracked it open, and the blood drained from his face. It wasn't a report. It was the alien signal, and it was already halfway to Earth. They tried to cancel the transfer. But by the time they cut the feed, it was too late. The signal had bounced off 3 relay stations, each one instantly forwarding it to every major listening array in the solar system. Minutes later, the long-range comm lit up with a call from Earth Command. The voice on the other end was calm but urgent. Arcos, we received your transmission. The audio file is unusual. Our linguists are decoding it now. Delete it, Mara said sharply. Don't listen to it. Don't even open it. There was a pause. Then the voice came back. Lower this time. Captain, we already did. Something in Mara's stomach turned cold. Shut down your receivers. But the voice was gone. Not disconnected, just replaced. The line hissed with static, then whispered the same terrible words in that alien, fractured tone. I am listening. Mara shut down the link manually, but she knew it wouldn't matter. If the listener could ride signals, then it was already on Earth. It didn't take long for the signs to show. One of the crew, Cade, started mumbling in the alien tongue during his sleep. Dr. Harlow found him in the medbay, standing perfectly still and staring at the wall, his lips moving without sound. When she touched his shoulder, he turned and looked. At her like she was a stranger, Pavel came to Mara later with a grim report. It's in the ship's memory. All of it navigation logs, maintenance records, even old crew messages. We can't erase it. Every time we wipe one system, it shows up in another, like it's hiding in the spaces between the code. Mara leaned against the console, gripping the edge hard. Earth's infected now. Every listening station, every ship that got the packet, it's in all of them. What do we do? Pavel asked. She thought of the alien's words. Silence is the only wall, and knew there was only one answer. We can't go back. If we do, we'll bring it with us. The crew didn't argue, but the weight in the air grew heavier. Home was gone. Even if they made it out alive, there would be nowhere to return to. Then the proximity alarm blared. Out in the dark, shapes began to appear on the scanner. Not to this time, but dozens cold. Silent ships slipping into formation around Arcos. They're not attacking, Juno said, her voice barely above a whisper. They're escorting us. Mara stared at the growing formation, realizing the truth, these weren't enemies. They were here to make sure Arcos never found its way home and deep inside the ship. Somewhere in the dark between signals, the listener whispered again, only this time. It sounded almost amused. You brought me so far. The ships surrounding Arcos were unlike anything the crew had seen before. Their hulls weren't sleek or shining. They were jagged, layered in thick black plating that seemed to swallow light instead of reflecting it. No windows, no antenna. Arrays, no glowing engines. They looked more like drifting pieces of an asteroid belt than warships. Yet their movements were precise, almost too precise for anything without a crew. The formation tightened, herding Arcos into the center. Every instinct in Mara screamed to run, but she knew they wouldn't survive a fight. Instead, she ordered Juno to hold position. The black ships stopped as one. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a pulse of light flashed from the lead. Ship 3, quick bursts, then to long ones. It repeated twice. Pavel frowned. That's Morse code. Juno let out a nervous laugh. Morse? As in ancient human? Not just human, Pavel said, tapping the console. Morse is simple. Anyone can use it without transmitting sound. The message was short. Don't speak, don't listen, follow, without waiting for a reply. The lead ship turned and began moving toward the edge of the system. The others closed in behind Arcos, leaving only one direction open, the one they wanted them to take. Mara gave the order to follow. They traveled in silence for hours. The alien fleet never transmitted a sound, never used radio or laser comms. Every bit of communication was through light, quick, deliberate flashes from hidden panels along their hulls. The next message came after Arcos had matched their speed. You heard the warning. You carry IT now. Mara's jaw tightened. They know about the listener. The following hours revealed more in fragments. The fleet belonged to the last survivors of the race that had sent the original signal. They called themselves the Varen, though the name came in a pattern of light pulses, not words. For generations, they had hunted the listener, destroying anything it touched. Their armor, their silence. Their refusal to use normal communication, all of it, was to keep the creature from finding them. When the Varen learned Arcos had sent the signal to Earth, the next message was sharp, almost urgent. Your world is all ready. Lost. Mara refused to accept it. She stepped closer to the bridge display, meeting the cold glow of the lead ship's lights through the viewport. If Earth is infected, tell us how to fix it. The Varen answer took longer this time. When it came, it was simple. Nitrogen monoxide. Cure. Only fire. The meaning was clear. Burn everything. Every ship, every station, every mind carrying the signal. It was the only way they had ever contained the listener. Juno's voice cracked. They're telling us to wipe out our own people. Mara kept her voice steady. Not an option. Another flash of light, then you die with them. The alien fleet began shifting, their formation changing into a combat pattern. It was obvious if the humans wouldn't help, Varen would destroy Arcos before it could spread the infection further. Mara didn't flinch. "I have another idea," she said quietly. "One that ends this without killing everyone." Pavel stared at her like she'd gone mad. "Captain, whatever you're thinking, I'm thinking." Mara said, her eyes narrowing, "that we use the thing's hunger against it. We give it a signal it can't resist." Her gaze drifted to the nav screen, where the faint pull of a nearby black hole glowed red. The black hole loomed ahead like a wound in the universe, swallowing even the starlight around it. Its gravity distorted the space nearby, bending the light of distant suns into warped rings. The Arcos sensors struggled to keep up, the readings twisting and snapping as if reality itself was breaking. "This is insane," Juno muttered, hands tight on the controls. "One wrong burn, and we're part of the event horizon. That's why we're going to lure it in and leave before it knows what's happening," Mara said. Her voice was calm, but the crew could hear the tension in it. The plan was simple in theory, impossible in practice. Send a signal so powerful, so rich in data, that the listener couldn't resist feeding on it. The lure would drag its presence fully into Arcos systems, and then they'd eject the infected core straight toward the black hole. The tidal forces in gravity would tear it apart if they survived long enough to watch it happen. Pavel worked feverishly in engineering, stripping power from every non-essential system to feed into the transmitter. "When I flip the switch, this thing's going to scream across half the galaxy," he warned. "If it's listening, it's coming." "That's the point," Mara said. The Varen fleet had fallen back, staying well out of range of the trap. They didn't flash any messages now. He knew this was either going to work or kill everyone. When Pavel activated the lure, the entire ship shuddered. The Gamma ray burned so hot it glowed through the plating. As a signal pulsed out, thick with every kind of transmission the listener might crave alien language. Human speech, encrypted military codes, even fragments of the original. Warning, they didn't have to wait long. The lights dimmed. The air recyclers groaned. Every screen flickered, showing flashes of alien corridors, faces screaming, the blackened planet's surface. Then the voice came. "I hear you."
I
The words echoed through the ship, vibrating in their bones. Began switching on and off without input. Doors sealed at random. Engineering, Pavel cursed as the core controls locked him out. "It's fighting me. It's trying to keep us from ejecting the drive." Juno swerved hard to avoid a sudden gravitational tug, alarms wailing. "If we don't drop that core in the next 2 minutes, we're not getting out." The temperature in the ship spiked. Dr. Harlow's voice came over, comes panicked. "Cade's awake. He's not himself. He's heading for the engine room." Mara didn't hesitate. "Lock him out, Pavel. Override the safety locks manually." "Metal?" groaned as Pavel forced the controls into position. Cade's fists pounded against the sealed hatch, his voice no longer human, just raw static and broken words. "Stay with me." The ship lurched violently as they skimmed the edge of the event horizon. Time itself seemed to stretch, the seconds dragging like hours. Mara watched the black hole's pull grab the ejected drive, dragging it into the swirling abyss. The listener screamed not through sound, but through every system at once. The screens bled green light. The ship's gravity failed for a moment, sending the crew drifting. Then, as the core vanished into the black, the screaming cut off. The lights steadied. The air recyclers hummed normally again. The silence felt heavier than any noise they'd heard before. Juno set the engines to full burn, pulling them away from the black hole's deadly grip. Behind them, the Varen fleet moved in, scanning the void where the core had disappeared. No messages came, only a slow turning away, as if they were satisfied. Pavel slumped against the wall, sweat dripping down his face. "Did we kill it?" Didn't answer. She stared out at the dark, knowing that if it could move through signals, maybe part of it had already escaped. Months passed before the Arcos saw Earth again. They didn't dock, didn't even enter orbit. The Varen had made it clear any direct contact risked spreading what remained of the listener. Instead, the crew stayed in deep space, resupplying at fringe stations, taking quiet jobs, keeping their ship's receivers on strict lockdown. On the surface, things seemed normal. The ship ran fine. No more flickering lights, no voices in the static, no sudden system seizures. Sometimes Mara almost let herself believe they'd truly destroyed it. In the black hole almost, it started one night when she couldn't sleep. The crew quarters were silent, the hum of the Arco system steady. She sat alone in her cabin, staring at the alien crystal on her desk. It hadn't pulsed since the trap, but tonight was faintly warm. Her personal comm unit lit up with an incoming transmission. No ship name, no ID code, just a simple prompt. Play message. She hesitated, then tapped it. Her own voice filled the room. If you hear this, run. It was exactly the same as the alien's warning months ago. Same trembling tone, same urgency, but it was her voice. It's not a recording she remembered making. It's not words she'd ever spoken out loud. The message ended. Then another began. You brought me so far, her voice whispered, slower this time. Ow. Do you think gravity could hold me? Mara's skin went cold. She checked the comm logs. The message hadn't come from outside the ship. It had originated from Arco's internal network. She locked down her cabin, heart pounding, and called Pavel. His reply came too fast, too casual. Captain? Yeah, I know. I heard it too. In the background of his voice, faint and almost hidden. She swore she heard herself speaking again, whispering things she couldn't make out. For the first time since Neptune, Mara felt something she hadn't wanted to feel again. They hadn't escaped. They'd just given the listener a new voice, and now was human.